The Mayan culture was remarkable, a thriving culture from before the time of Christ until at least the 9th century. Its relatively quick collapse remains a source of debate among scholars. The Mayans built dozens of great cities throughout the tropical forests of Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, and Mexico. In terms of architecture, organization, linguistics, and agriculture, their culture is considered advanced when compared to the neighboring Aztecs. Still, there was a strange crossover between what we call civilization and what we call brutality. For example, the ritual game Maya Ball was rich with religious symbolism and appears to have had complicated rules that demanded impressive athleticism. Yet while the players wore protective belts for safety, the losing side faced decapitation or cardiectomy, the removal of the heart. At the Toltec Mayan city of Chichen Itza stands the largest ball court in Mesoamerica. At this ball court, decapitation scenes are shown as well as platforms carved with human skulls skewered on stakes for display. In Maya, the amount of internal warfare increased as time went along. The political climate became more and more fragmented, and large-scale battles were fought to determine territory and to defend it. There was no centralized government. It was composed of small hereditary kingdoms like Roman city-states, and the winner often annexed the loser, increasing the population burden of each kingdom.
The people of the Maya, for the sake of expanding their already massive civilization, began to destroy their environment, eventually setting in place the events that would lead to a collapse. However, to understand how they destroyed their environment, it is important to know what their environment was like. The Mayan people had two separate climate zones. To the north, it was hot, humid desert, and to the south, a bustling tropic jungle. The rainfall is thought to have been very unpredictable. Nowadays, it can range anywhere from a mere 18 inches to a whopping 100 inches. Also, their area is known to suffer from occasional hurricanes. Some archaeologists suggest that earthquakes contributed to environmental stress, and some geologists say that volcanic activity was a factor, pointing to several dormant volcanoes over the Mesoamerican hotspot.
Additionally, the Mayans lived in an area with potentially low rainfall. High on mountains and well above the water table, many cities were set far from rivers or lakes. They attempted to sate this problem by building cenotes, or water basins. The one in Tikal, a city that had to support a population of 10,000, could hold enough water to feed the city's people for 18 months. But that water was only available to people, not crops. Crops like maize were staples of the Mayan diet, and the final drought killed off crops and left the people starving and desperate, unable to sustain the booming population. The Mayans burned a lot of square miles to supply themselves with usable farmland. However, in doing so, they deprived themselves of commodities from the jungle, such as animals for food and clothing, and plants for food, fuel for fire, and medicine.
In addition to continually merging groups of people, the Mayans' lack of contraception as a means of population control added to the problem. Rural methods of contraception were insufficient or unused, and the Mayan leaders were either unaware of or they entirely ignored negative effects of overpopulation. So finally, with a faltering, unsustainable ecosystem, as many as 200 people per square kilometer, some cities ranked with the heavily populated areas of the post-industrialized world, but did not have the modern technology to fall back on.
Now, some European nations had a slightly better understanding of contraception, but Maya's European intruder was Spain, a nation of predominantly Catholic people. Since the Catholic view of contraception is historically conservative, and since Maya's and Spain's religious worldviews were both fatalistic in essence, Mayan ignorance of population control and the Spanish Catholic ethics meshed into one cohesive stance of indifference. Their concept of sexuality and metaphysics, destruction of resources, as well as possible environmental disasters may have contributed to the disappearance of this once powerful civilization in the face of European imperialism. The last Mayan states remained independent of the Spanish until late in the 17th century. They were finally subdued in 1697. A high percentage of South American people, including half of the Guatemalan population, are descended from the original Mayans.